What am I doing today? Well, I got a question, I forget exactly when, about how you get the old isolator gaskets. That is that gasket you see right there. How do you get that rock solid hardened gasket out of the back of a reproducer, of a number 2 Victrola, an HMV number 2, or a number 4, for instance, or orthophonic for that matter, 5A or 5B HMV. Well, don't go prying on that with stuff, because this is an HMV, Victrola number 2. This is brass. It is chemically blackened brass. And if you go, you can see it's kind of worn there a little bit, and the brass is showing through. If you go prying on that, you're going to ruin it. You're going to mark it up, gouge it up, make it look like crap. Don't do that. I'm going to show you how to get it out in just a second here. I just wanted to take a look at, just realize something. This isolator gasket, see how far that protrudes over the top of the brass? Kind of reminds me of an HMV 5A or something. 4A type gasket. This is the type I normally see. Ordinarily, this would be flush with the top of the brass, but it has swollen with age and is pushing out and is a little bit messed up there. You can see the difference there. I don't know if that's original. I'll tell you one thing. This is absolute rock solid. So this is going to be in there probably 70 or 80 years, and most likely has been there since it was new. There are little variations with parts like this. I mean, they're all Victrola number 2s, and they all have the same basic look, but there are differences in them. I had one the other day, for instance, that has a hole drilled right here, and it's got what looks like a thumb screw for the needle. In that hole, all it's doing, it protrudes into the other side of the brass ring, and it locks the reproducer onto the tone arm. Never saw that in any other Victrola product or Victrola reproducer. Don't think it was done aftermarket. I think it was original. I just think it's a very early style of Victrola number 2. They came out with this one in 1919, production-wise. Maybe the first few had that particular feature. You wouldn't be able to take this off the tone arm unless you first loosen the thumb screw a little bit, and then you can move it. Not that there's ever been a problem with these things really moving around on a tone arm, if it's properly on there. So I guess they must have realized that at some point, and they stopped making them that way. And I had one that had. That's one variation. Other variants, see if I got one here with the larger holes. Do I have one? No, these all look pretty much the same. But sometimes the little holes they drill here for the screws that go through to the other side, the other part of the clamshell of the body of the reproducer, sometimes they're a little bit bigger than this, a little bit more cupped. The screw sits down a little bit more flush. Don't know why they stopped doing that or why they started, if that's the case. But that's just another variation. Some have numbers, serial number. Like that one with the thumb screw, for instance, that has a serial number. I assume those are the older ones. Not sure the significance of the serial number. If I've read anything about it, I have since forgotten. Some, let's see. Is this one with paint or is... Oh, here we go. You can see the difference in the hole here. This one's a bit more cupped than this one. Small, very, very small minor difference there. But if you look for them, you will find them. Of course, not everybody has a pile of Victrola number 2 backs like this sitting on the table in front of them. If you're used to seeing them one at a time over months in between or whatever, as you're doing your own machines, you probably would never notice stuff like that. But I have noticed it. What I'm doing here, now that I am manufacturing my own isolator gaskets, I am starting to get caught up a little bit. It's the dark time now. It's winter. I'm inside at 4 o'clock. It's starting to get dark. So I do this time of year. I don't do this in the warmer months when I have other things I could be doing out here, like doing whole machines, unless I really need a reproducer. These are all from Victrola number 2 reproducers that are from machines I have yet to do. So still several Victrola 50s. a couple of 35s. All of them have had the number 2s on them. I haven't done them yet. This is just, how many I have here? 1, 2, 3. I have 6 of them here. I've already done, I believe, 11 of them from the backlog of ones I've had. Plus, I've also done a number 4. Those are all from machines I've already done, and they're waiting for them, or I have yet to do. And I'm going to get to them, and I don't want to have to do this in the summer, next spring, whatever, doing them now. So part of that is getting that old isolator gasket out so that I can rebuild that, with a new gasket. How to get it out? You use heat. No, you don't put it in the oven. Use something like this. This is a heat gun. So in this case, it's a Wagner. There's lots of different makes of these out there. This is a 2 heat range, low heat range, high heat range. I usually use high heat range in the expedience, of getting it done quickly. Just think of this as an industrial hair dryer. You really don't want to use something like this to dry your hair. It'll cook your scalp off and cook your hair too. But for industrial things like defrosting pipes, taking off decals, or heating isolator gaskets, it's excellent. Because when you heat old hardened rubber like this, it turns soft again and then turns immediately hard as soon as it dries out, as it cools off. So what you do is that's low, high, okay. You put it in a tone arm like this. This is just a spare I have lying around. It's a fat tone arm from I think this is a VV80 or something like that. Doesn't matter. Just some extra tone arm. I've already got the back plate on there. And I'm just gonna, and watch your hands with this. Don't blow this on your hands. You'll burn yourself. Just work it around. You'll start to smell the rubber. One of the reasons why I do this outdoors. Burning rubber stinks, in case you'd never smelled it before. Really don't want to do this inside. So if you can, in inclement weather you might have to, but go in the garage or something. But it's not that bad today. It's 45 degrees out here. I'm not running a machine. I'm not playing records out here today. But for something like this, that's fine. I'm just heating that up. Nice and even, just working around a little bit. Don't matter, just trying to. Don't leave it in one place, just move it around so you get even heat. And wear gloves, grasp this, and just pull out. That's it. Now, a word of warning. If you are doing this with a pot metal back, like found on a lot of number 4s, if you even find one that's remotely good, and of course on the orthophonics, you want to heat it a lot more than I just did. You want to heat it till it's just about bubbling, because you want that thing to just about pretty much just fall right off of the gasket. You don't want to. I pried it a little bit. You can get away with that with brass. You cannot get away with that with pot metal. We're not done yet. Now you have the old gasket. Now this part only matters if, like me, you are manufacturing your own gasket. Let's take a look at this one. I'm going to take it off of here for a minute so we can take a look at it. Now isolator gaskets vary. This one appears to sit flush all the way down in, bottoming out in here, all the way down, no gap there. Others may well be different. They will have a slight lip here with only rubber, and the brass doesn't come quite down all the way to the end. I believe that was a later design, a later innovation that they would continue to use. HMV would use it on everything, at least from the mid-20s on up. Victor apparently has not in this case, and I do believe this is an original. Yeah, I can see the shellac where they glued it in with shellac. An original isolator gasket. What we need to make our own gaskets is that brass ring you see in there. See how the brass ring's totally encompassed within the rubber? Yeah. So we need to get that off. And that means we're going to have to do some more cooking. Making the most disgusting of s'mores here, or whatever you want. Go ahead and cook it. Get that rubber nice and warm. One of the good things of using a spare tone arm to do this is I can keep my hand a good distance away from the heat. This thing is very hot, very hot. So it will burn you if you're not careful. And I will use that rag over there in a minute to handle this. Ah, yeah, she's starting to smoke. Oh, what a lovely stink. See how it's bubbling? Starting to bubble? Yeah. You're melting the rubber. All right, let's start just down here. Take your little tool like this. This is just a hook. A little pick. Okay. And just start to rip that. It comes off in chunks mostly. Start to rip it off of there. You can use a screwdriver for this too. Don't worry about marking up the brass. You might want to worry about marking up your tone arm if you're going to reuse this tone arm for something. And this is a good tone arm, so I really don't want to tear it up much. See how that's coming off there in big pieces like that? And then, you see this big chunk on there. I'm going to go around here, and I'm just going to scrape off any excess. Let's see. Got most of it. We got a little bit in there. Let's get that. Because it's easy to get now, not so easy to get later when it cools down. So you want to get in there and just pick that stuff right out of there. See, on this side, especially over here. Get it all around the edge. Might be easy now to take the screwdriver to these tight spots and just get in there. Well, that's a little warm. I can feel that through my glove. And what we are left with when this is done is the skeleton. We are left with the skeleton of the isolator gasket. That's what's inside that isolator gasket. See, it's got these little wings over here, 4 of them come out the side. That is to provide some stability when it's in there so it doesn't pull off the rubber too easily. Not all of them will have that. A lot of number 4s, especially HMVs, do not use those little wings on there. They're just a round circle, some with knurling on it to help it grip the rubber a little easier. And this is what you have. This is what's on there. And watch this now. Oh, no, it's still too warm. It won't crumble yet. But that is how you get the brass ring out. And that's how you take an isolator gasket off. Let's do another one. Okay, let's turn that over. Let's do this one. Let's see. First, let's get that on there. It's a little tight. Okay. This one we're going to cook a little bit more. Let's pretend it's a number 4 with a pot metal back. And somehow you found one that might possibly be rebuildable. I found one myself not long ago, so it is possible. However, unlikely. Let's go ahead and cook it. Now, I've done videos about my experiments with making my own isolator gaskets. I'm not really going to cover all of that now. You can see those videos. Go back and watch them. There's a couple of them. I've been experimenting with that, or was experimenting with that pretty much all spring, part of the summer, coming up with a formula that works. And I will explain how that's done in a minute. The quick and dirty. As soon as we get this off. My hand's getting tired. Another good thing about doing it on a somewhat cool day like this is that it cools off quickly. So I don't have to worry too much about burning myself on something that I've been working on. See, it's starting to bubble a little bit. Let's get around this side. This softens up the shellac that they use as glue also. I don't use shellac to glue them in because I don't need to, because I'm forming the gasket in the back. So it bonds directly to the back. I don't have to worry about it sliding back out again. Never has so far, so. You can really see that starting to bubble now. Get around the back a little bit. Whoa, I just melted. I just melted my bag. That's nice. See how it's starting to slide down a little bit on its own? That's good, that's what you want. Now I'm just gonna, no, I don't wanna do that. Ooh, what a lovely smell. Okay, I think that's hot enough now. It'll stay warm for a minute or two. Now I'm just gonna, very carefully, even pressure. Nope, it seems like it's not ready yet, okay. Ooh, that thing is smoking. Careful not to burn yourself. This is where you will burn yourself. But I need to have a feel for what's going on here as I do this. Look, because we're pretending this is a pot metal back. Heavier gloves would probably, there we go. It came right out. Heavier gloves would definitely be a better idea doing this. But with a brass back, you don't have to worry about that too much. So let's get down in there. A lot of it's stuck down in there. That's okay, because we're gonna just goober it out of there. It'll come out. Soft, hot rubber. And then we will do exactly the same thing we did on the last one. And expose that skeleton of the isolator gasket. Okay. You always gotta be very careful on a pot metal back how you flex these walls here. They may look sturdy and they may look strong, but pot metal is never sturdy or strong when it's 100 years old. Ouch. Felt that a little bit. So you have to be very careful. You don't want to gouge into them. You don't want to push against them too much or stress them. And there we go. That one's done. Now let's get back to this. This may still be a little warm. Let's see if we can dig. Oh yeah, look at that. That's popping right off of there. See, when you get it warm like that, it comes off really easily. And you don't have to have it fight you. Starting to cool off a little bit. Not terrible. Something tells me we're going to be getting rain, I think. Or, you know what? It kind of feels like snow. And I hate to use that word because I am not ready for that. I won't be ready for that in the springtime. I could definitely go for one of those winters where we don't get any snow. That doesn't bother me in the slightest. You like a white Christmas? Tough shit. No snow. Because I don't mind snow. I hate falling in snow. And I hate cleaning snow. Plowing it and shoveling it. Not that I shovel anything anymore, but I do have to plow it. Or I'd never get out of here. And it's never fun. It's never fun when you got to go out and do anything in the snow. Especially when you're not too sturdy on your feet anymore. All right. Or should I say steady on your feet. There we go. I could probably do to heat this up a little bit more to make this easier, but I'm lazy, so I'm just going to keep doing this. to get the last little bits off. I think they're off. Let's get that out of there. And let's take a close-up eyeball look at it. And then I'm going to go into a real quick and dirty of how I make the isolated gaskets. I'm not going to make one out here because it's time-consuming to do when you do it right. And it's also a little cool out here. And I don't want to have to work without gloves, and I will have to work without gloves to do that. Let's get much crud off of there as we can. And I'll explain why. It's important, not up here so much, not at the top. This is the bottom, the part that goes into the reproducer first, into the back first, is this area here. And I need to have it as clean as possible. Well, no, not clean, but at least all the chunks off of there. It's important because of how I make the gaskets. Okay. I think I got it pretty good. I'll probably go over it a little bit when I'm inside, and I can put this up to my eyeball a little closer. Okay. Now, what I will do is, here's your typical back. Let's get some of the garbage out of the way here. It's starting to build up a little bit. Let's get that out of there. All right. Here's your back. Now, what I will do is I will take some of the white tube gaskets that are used to rebuild the exhibition reproducer. That's the exhibition, the Victrola Victor exhibition reproducer's diaphragm gasket material. It's a white tube material. You get this from all the suppliers. You can get it on eBay. Walt Summers, Gettysburg Antique Phonograph will sell it to you. Phonograph Shop will sell it to you. A lot of people will. Comes in two different sizes, the white tube gasket. You have the Columbia size, which is bigger. I don't use that. Or use the exhibition, which is what I use. I cut a piece big enough to go around the bottom in here. Imagine you're making a small diaphragm gasket for the world's smallest reproducer. It would wrap right in there, just enough so that the ends will connect and it'll stay down in there. You know, if you make it too long, it's going to want to spring back up again. So be careful, work slowly. You don't want to waste gasket material that is expensive. Well, not horribly so, but still it's not that cheap either. Just one gasket down in there, one layer of the tube gasket in there. Then I take this brass ring, this part here, the short end is the bottom. That goes in first. The higher part here, that's the top. You will notice right here, your guide pin. See the pin sticking down there? Okay, that will line up this cutout right here. That's the bottom of the reproducer. That's where your needle bar comes out there. This is the top. That little pin there, that little guide pin, lines up perfectly with this hole right here that you can see has a convenient screw in it. That's an Allen screw. It's a set screw. And even though I am not using the one-piece hard gaskets anymore in there, I will still be using that screw because it helps retain the gasket material. Now remember, I've already got that rolled up gasket. Well, I already have the tube gasket down in there. And then I'm going to take this, line it up, line the pin up with the hole, slip it down in there. I'm not doing that here. I'm just demonstrating. Now, when you push this down in here, this circumference here is going to go down into the middle of the tube gasket. And the gasket is going to rest on these little wings that stick out here. It's going to be down in there. Press it down in your thumb. Wiggle it around a little bit. And make sure. You can see here that it's all the way down in there. It won't be. This brass will be flush with the top here. Maybe even a little proud by the time you're done. You've got it stuck down in there. You've pressed it in. You've examined it like this. And it's flush. It's not crooked. It's not sitting like this or something like that. You want it flush. Okay. Then you take your RTV silicone gasket maker. I use black RTV, liquid steel brand, I believe it is. I'm sure any brand would work. Black is the correct color for a Victrola No. 2 reproducer. I believe it also is for the HMV number 2, but they might use red. Either way, both colors work. I went on Amazon and I got a non-clogging tip. It's about this long. There's a long piece of plastic you stick down in there. You pull it out, and this way it never clogs on you. Put it around the top here and squeeze it, and it'll start to load up with RTV all around. You just let the squeeze do the work. Don't push it down in there with your fingers or anything like that. That makes a huge mess. Let the tip do the work. Get it down in there. If it flows over the sides a bit, don't worry about that. You're in the middle, whatever, because you can clean that up when it's dry. It's very easy to work with. And when you finally reach the other side, make sure it's going down in there. Make sure when you squeeze it, you squeeze it in there till it starts to pop up on either side of the nozzle. Then move it over, move it over, move it over, and so on until you've done all around. Now it's going to be sticking up a little bit and kind of bumpy. I take a piece of plastic, which I don't have here, but let's pretend this screwdriver, which you could also use, I guess, is here, and you're just going to go around and around, smooth it out, just like so. Get rid of the excess, wipe it on a towel, something like that, and then you will take this, making sure that pin doesn't get out of alignment now. Make sure it stays, you see it's out of alignment now, but like that. Make sure it stays lined up in there. Then you will set it aside, and you will leave it alone. Once you've seen that it's the ring is sitting in there like it should, and everything's fine. Don't worry if you're a little sloppy with it. You'll get over that eventually after you've done a number of these. You'll have it down to a science, but leave it alone. It will take up to 48 hours to fully cure, but you can handle it in 24 or even 12. You'll be able to handle it, and you'll be able to finish rebuilding the rest of the reproducer at that point. And then you set the whole thing aside. Before you put it on a tone arm, you should wait 24 hours. You know, because the proper fit of this ring onto a tone arm should be snug. It shouldn't be wobbly and loose. It shouldn't be overly tight. You should be able to, let's see if this will do it. None of these have ever been mounted on this tone arm. Every tone arm is different. Yeah, see, this one's a little tight. That's a little bit tight. That's too tight. I would have to adjust that if I was going to use that. How about this one? There we go. All right, that one went on there. Push it all the way down the slot, and then you rotate it like that. Now that is in the position it would be for playing. And to get it off, turn it, and then just kind of wobble it back and forth like that to pull it off. I should actually leave that on there because I'm going to be doing that one next. Oh, yeah, okay. I was going to demonstrate what to do if it's too tight. All right, one kind of easy thing to do. Let's get that back off of there. Here's the slot. This is your slot. Pin goes down there, and then you rotate it into this slot. If it's a little tight, take your screwdriver, stick it in there, and you're going to, working very slow and small increments, just kind of push that down a little bit. This end is going down a little bit, that's all. And then let's see if that slides on there. Where is the pin? There's the pin, okay. Yeah, see how much easier that was? I didn't really do much. I just did it a little bit. But now it comes on and off a little bit easier. You don't want it loose. This is good. This is about how it should be. It should not be effortless. It should, you know, have a little bit of grip on there. Of course, you might want it to be effortless if it's a pot metal reproducer, but with these, they don't need that. That's perfect. That's exactly how I would want that if I was going to be using this on a machine. And, you know, I have, how many did I have here? I said I had 6 here. I'm going to do all 6. I'm going to do new gaskets in all 6 of these. So then I will let them sit, and I will then use them as needed. As I'm rebuilding the reproducers one at a time, I will be selecting one out of the bag, and I will use it. Well, it's obviously not going to be that bag anymore, but oh well. Ziploc bags aren't that expensive, even though that one was for free. I would use them as needed. So the 48-hour, wait to let this stuff cure doesn't really make that much difference to me. Most of these are going on reproducers, won't even be used until next year probably not even tested before then. I have quite a few reproducers I do need to test, but there's no rush on that. I can do that over the winter. And of course, if you screw up, it's RTV. It's not cement. It's RT. It's gasket maker. That's what RTV is. It's silicone gasket maker. You could simply pop it back out of there again with something like this. Dig it out of there again. Don't use heat because it probably would really stink for you. And I'm not sure it would work because the stuff is high temperature. You would dig that out again. That's all. Clean it off the ring. Back to square one. You know, none of these materials are actually permanent. You can get them out if you screw it up. But work slow. Do not rush. There's no time. Never do this if you have a time constraint or anything like that. You want to work nice and slow. Get it done, you know, a little bit. This way it's done right. And you don't have to use the same ring, you know, that came out of here. It doesn't matter. This ring, you can use any number 2, any number 4. It'll work just fine. Put that over there, in fact, along with that. But that should answer the question of how you get these apart. I'll do another one. This time we're not going to pretend that it is pot metal. I hate working with pot metal. I hate working with pot metal reproducers. I love the Victrola No2, the Exhibition, and the all brass Victrola No4. Those are the ones I like to play with. Those are the ones used on the types of Victrolas that I play with. I don't really do much with the orthophonic machines. One big glaring reason is that they do have pot metal parts that I really don't like to deal with. It is just a headache that life is too short, you know, to have to put up with. But the drawback of that is that those are some of the nicest sounding Victrolas. And I do have some, and not to say I don't have any. You know, I have my personal orthophonic machines. They're actually mine are, in my case, they're portables, but I do have them. But it's not the kind of thing I'm going to take on for the public. You know, I'm not going to be enthusiastic about helping somebody if they call me. I was like, can you fix my orthophonic? And all the pot metal fell apart. Yeah, I figured I'm not going to get involved in that. If you're lucky, somebody's remanufacturing the part you need. If you're not lucky, well, you're going to have to try to glue it all back together. Good luck with that. See how easy that comes off when it's warmed? This one's already crumbling apart. I wanted to see this one is flush on the bottom too. Let's see about pulling that apart. Oh yeah, wow, that came off really easy. That just peeled right off of there. Perfect. I should probably use the rag on that because that's gonna be hot. Okay, let's double check that to make sure. Oh, that's beautifully clean. Look at that. Okay, this one I'm curious about. I want to see what this looks like on the bottom because, yeah, this one looks like it has a gap where the brass ring does not go all the way down until it's bottoming out on the brass back. This might be a later version where they went to the HMV style of doing it. Let's see, where's our, I can't see. Half blind here. Okay, here we go. There we go. That fits nicely, and let's rotate. No, we got to go in a little more. Which way do we rotate? This way. Why are we not rotating? What happened? What am I not seeing here? Oh, okay. Like the HMVs, it has to go on a little bit more. Yep, there we go. Now we rotate it. All righty. Okay. Let's get that out of the way so I don't knock it off the table. Yeah, this is an oddball. You don't usually see Victor reproducers with that big extra collar of material sticking out over the top, unless, of course, it's swelled that way, which is not the case here. Okay. I almost scored a couple more record boxes this morning. Those are the ones that hold 50 10-inch 78s with snake skin covers, fake, or crocodile skin, whatever. It's just paper, but they use that pattern. The guy made a deal for 2 of those boxes. If you look on eBay, you know what they go for. 2 of those boxes with about 30, 25, 30 records, something like that, scattered amongst the 2 of them, for 50 bucks. So basically 25 bucks each. And there was nothing structurally wrong. I didn't have to glue anything except a little bit of the cover, which is not that big of a deal. And it wasn't me doing this. It was a friend of mine down in Florida at a flea market. And he called me up about it. And I said, yeah, I will pay that because I'm looking for a couple of them. And I can always, I could always use a couple of extra ones. And he went to the guy and said, okay, my friend says he'll do it. And the guy goes, no, I really can't do it for that kind of money. I'm going to have to get $60. And she told me this, and he argued with the guy. Ow, that's hot. He argued with the guy a little bit. He says, that's not how business is conducted. You make a deal, that's the deal. You don't suddenly decide you want more money. That's not how this works. Anywhere. So after they went back and forth, I eventually told him, I said, tell that guy to go, well, be fruitful and multiply with himself. And that was the end of that. And he walked away from it. Imagine somebody trying to do business like that, though. You know, I don't understand that. I do not understand people who conduct themselves that way. Okay. Here we're looking at the bottom. Now you can see. Let me get this off of here. This came off. Watch, this will be hard to come off now. It came off easily enough before. Ow, 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 ow. Ooh, 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 ah. That's hot. Okay. Now you can see, let me get my little pointer here. It's flattened out a little bit for me playing with it, but here where the brass ring here does not go all the way down to the bottom. It leaves a little bit of a gap, which you were able to see a little bit better before I heated it up. It seems like it has squished down a little bit. Oh, well. But that is what I am doing with the exhibition tube down in there. I'm keeping the brass off of contact with the brass, separating these 2 brass parts to give it full isolation. It is isolated completely, the tone arm from the reproducer, and the use of RTV, which is a soft enough material, yet strong enough to retain this onto the tone arm. That's important. Soft enough material so as this rides in the groove. Oh, that's the one. It's hot. As it rides in the groove, and the groove is not perfect. It's going to have imperfections. As it goes around, the needle is going to want this to move slightly. I'm going to exaggerate that movement here. You will not see your reproducer doing this. But on a microscopic level, that's exactly what it's doing. It's riding the groove, and the needle has freedom of movement so that it could move around the little hills and dales and side-to-side bumps and everything else in the groove of the record without being rigid. See, if this is rigid when it's trying to do that, it is cutting a channel now. It's cutting its own channel instead of going around, you know, an obstacle and riding it naturally like rails of a train on a rail. It is now going through it. And enough of that happening, you're going to start noticing that your records don't sound so great anymore. Some of them don't sound great now because of this happening in the past. Now, this freedom of movement is allowed both by supple isolator gaskets in here and by a supple isolator gasket here and diaphragm gaskets here. Got that backwards. So that's what you want. You want that freedom of the needle bar to move. And I have found with the RTV stuff, silicone gasket maker is what that is, it really seems to have the correct durometer hardness that it will allow that freedom of movement while still being strong enough to keep that brass ring from tearing loose of there. So that has worked out to the point, even though now you can buy these, they kind of look a little like this, from the part sellers, I think, The phonograph shop just came back with some. I think he's getting 12 or 14, maybe $16. I haven't really looked because I don't need them anymore. I waited an entire year before I started because everybody was out of them except one supplier, and that would have ended up costing me $36 with shipping and tax each. Now imagine you're doing 20 reproducers. You do the math on that. So that's why I let so many of these number 2s and number 4s build up. You know, I only did them when I absolutely had to, and I made one reproducer go for several different machines. Or I did an exhibition when possible, because, you know, the exhibitions I had parts for. Didn't have any of these gaskets left. But somebody on YouTube, and I forget who it is now, I watched a video. I've just stumbled upon it one day, or I think somebody later directed me to it too, but I forget now. Somebody was experimenting using Flex Seal to make these gaskets. Doing basically the same thing, but putting it in with a little putty knife, Flex Seal, you know, that kind of thing. Flex Seal is fine, but the only problem, it dries too quickly. Doesn't make a difference here. In the gasket means you can work with it quicker, but it dries in the can really quick. Every time you open and close that can, you shorten its life expectancy very quickly. It starts to skim over, then you have to dig for usable material, and then it just solidifies all the way through. You'll end up maybe getting 7 or 8 usable gaskets out of the material before it's too hard. And say you've only got one of these. You could use the RTV from the squeeze tube, cap it, put it on a shelf, and a year later come back and use it again. It's fine. Or use it for something else. Maybe you got something you need to caulk around a house, around a window, a little gap or something. You can use it for that. It works really well. It's supple, and it's easy to use. With the squeeze tube, you're squeezing it in there, a long snout, you know, all of that. It goes right down in it. Any mess, you just clean it up. Not a big deal at all. Oh, I still got to take the rubber off of this. What am I doing? Losing my mind. Let's see. How did I have this in here? And I'm just curious to see if there's any difference, because the rubber gasket, the rubber that's molded on there is different. I'm wondering if there's any difference in the brass ring of this compared to the other ones. I don't think there is, but who knows? Maybe somebody changed this at one time. They could have changed this in 1950 maybe, or something like that. It was possible to still get parts back then. Maybe somebody traveled overseas and they had this done in Germany or in Great Britain. It's possible. Which is why I want to see what that brass ring looks like under there. See if it's any different than the other 3 that I've done over there already. Well, it's really getting dark quick. I better stop yakking pretty soon and get to work, because I'll end up doing this in the dark, and already I'm melting my plastic again. Yeah, that's good. I'll end up having to put these in my pocket to get them back inside. All right, I think that's good enough to give a look-see at what's going on here. Oh, yeah, wow, that's really soft. Come on. Come on. There we go. Come on. I think it's got the wings. I think it does. Don't touch that with your hands. The gloves are thin. Okay. Oof. I'm going to have to heat this a little more, I think, but I really want to see if it... Yeah, it does. It does. There's one right there. Yeah. Okay. It's a standard Victor type ring on there. Maybe the company was just experimenting with doing things a little differently. Don't know. I have no information on stuff like that, so couldn't tell you. Except by observation. Now you've seen it here, so you know such a gasket does exist in the Victor lineup, I guess you could say. Oof. That's crumbling. Come on. Okay. Well, we'll heat that, and I will do a little bit more, scrape it, clean it up good, get it looking nice, and I'll do the other 2, and that will be it for now. I'm not going to do anything else today, and somebody told me tomorrow is supposed to be a washout, so I'm not going to be doing anything then either, but if by some miracle it's not a washout, I have one more machine to look at. I'm not going to really do any work on it, but we are going to examine an early Phonola, Waters Conley Phonola. At least, no, I'm sorry, it's not a Waters phonola. It's another, it's the earlier company. I forget what they are. It says it on the machine, and we'll go over that at the time. It's where that tone arm came from on the last machine I was playing with. I got to remember to put that back on there because I'll be needing it, because being a wood box phonograph, finished wood phonograph, I am going to do something with it. That one I can work with. All right, that's it for now.